There's a feeling around Celtic right now that something might finally be starting to move, even if nobody wants to say it too loudly just yet. The January window always has that strange atmosphere where rumors swirl, expectations rise, and reality often hits hard. But there are enough small developments to at least justify a proper conversation about where the squad stands and what might come next. It does not feel calm, it does not feel settled, and that in itself says a lot about the current situation at the club. One of the more concrete moves is the return of Stephen Welsh, brought back early from his loan spell at Motherwell. This was not a sentimental recall or a courtesy gesture. It was done out of necessity. Celtic are short at the back, painfully so, and when numbers are thin, you do not have the luxury of leaving a capable defender elsewhere. Welsh has been playing regularly, starting almost every match he was eligible for, and by all accounts, he held his own in a Motherwell side, enjoying a solid season. Being described as a revelation might sound dramatic, but it reflects how consistent he was week in, week out. That kind of reliability is exactly what Celtic are crying out for right now. The timing of the recall matters as well. There was a clear deadline approaching, and once that passed, the option would have been gone. Under the previous setup, it looked unlikely that this would happen, but with the current management assessing the squad honestly, the decision feels logical. With Cameron Carter-Vickers not expected back until around April and cover needed for players like Austin Trusty and Liam Scales, Welsh suddenly becomes important. Celtic have listened to offers for him in the past, and there was even fresh interest from elsewhere in the league, but the reality is simple. Right now, he is needed. In a strange way, it does feel like welcoming a new signing, even if it also highlights questions about recruitment over the last few windows. When you zoom out and look at the wider squad picture, it becomes clear just how stretched things are. Almost halfway through the January window, Celtic have welcomed back Welsh and also seen Odin Holm return from a disappointing spell abroad. Holm, however, does not appear to be part of the immediate plans, and conversations are already taking place about finding him another club, likely on loan. With time still left on his contract, it feels like another situation that has not quite worked out as hoped, adding to a list that supporters know all too well. The injury list only sharpens the problem, with several long-term absentees still nowhere near returning. Key areas of the pitch are weakened. Losing a starting right back, a first-choice centre-back, and a regular option out wide all at once inevitably limits flexibility. These are not short-term knocks either. They have dragged on, forcing constant reshuffles and makeshift solutions. It leaves the squad feeling incomplete, like a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Because of that, the needs are glaring. A striker, it is essential, and arguably more than one given the ongoing fitness concerns in that position. There is still a need for a right winger, despite some recent bright moments from within the squad. Form has improved in flashes, and there have been encouraging performances, but relying solely on that would be risky. The midfield, even after looking sharper in the most recent outing, still feels like it lacks urgency and drive at times. There is talent there, no doubt, but too often the tempo drops and the game drifts. A player who can inject energy, pace, and purpose could transform that area. Out wide on the left, questions remain as well. Short-term solutions might make sense here, even temporary ones, because there is not full confidence in the current options at centre-back. Additional quality is still required, yet the longer the window goes on, the more it feels like expectations need to be tempered. Celtic are not building calmly, they are firefighting. The priority feels less about perfect long-term planning and more about getting enough quality through the door to stabilize things, particularly in attacking areas where matches can be decided. That brings the focus back to the striker discussion and the names starting to circulate. One that has surfaced is Kieran Bowie, a player who has quietly put together a productive season. There is interest, there is monitoring, and there is awareness from his current club that Celtic are watching. His numbers show progress, goals coming at a steadier rate, and at his age, there is obvious room to grow. It feels like a genuine breakthrough period for him rather than a short burst of form. The issue, as always, is the valuation. The reported asking price is significant, especially for a deal within the same league. In the modern market, however, that is the reality. Scottish clubs are no longer willing to sell cheaply, particularly when English sides are always lurking with deeper pockets. Celtic and their rivals are no longer the automatic destination they once were, and that changes everything. If the coaching staff truly believe Bowie can come in and immediately improve the team, then it becomes a test of ambition. Either you act decisively or you watch someone else step in. Another striking option mentioned comes from France, with reports suggesting interest in Mohamed Bamba. The idea being explored is a loan with an option to buy, which on paper sounds cautious. His recent record does not leap off the page, and there are concerns about confidence and form. Being left out of matchday squads raises further questions. It would not be the most inspiring move, but desperation can lower standards, and that is a dangerous place for a club like Celtic to be. The hope would be that a change of environment could spark something, but that is far from guaranteed. There was also talk around a young defender deal that now looks increasingly unlikely due to injury complications. Medical issues requiring surgery have stalled progress, and it feels strange that an already injured player was being pursued in the first place. Whether this is genuinely bad luck or simply a convenient end to a move that never fully convinced supporters is open to interpretation. Either way, it seems that option is fading fast. On the wing, interest from elsewhere in the league for one of Celtic's brighter performers has been noted, but circumstances make a departure improbable for now. At the same time, discussions are ongoing about another right-sided attacker from South America, with the possibility of a loan and a future purchase. At 26 years old, he is more experienced than some might have expected, and that could either be a positive or another gamble, depending on how it plays out. As the days roll on, that sense of uncertainty only grows stronger because every update seems to raise as many questions as it answers. Celtic are clearly active in terms of conversations and contacts, but activity does not always translate into action, and supporters have been here before. There is a feeling that the club are constantly assessing, constantly weighing things up, but rarely committing early enough to get ahead of the curve. That delay can be costly, especially when the squad is already stretched and the margin for error is slim. The defensive situation remains a major concern, even with Stephen Welsh back in the building. While his return adds depth, it does not suddenly solve everything. There is still a lack of balance and experience in certain areas, and relying on players to cover multiple roles can only work for so long. Injuries have exposed how fragile the structure can be, and every match now feels like it carries an added layer of risk. One more setback, one more muscle pull or awkward landing, and the options shrink even further. In midfield, the debate continues about profiles rather than just names. There are players who can pass, players who can retain possession, but too often the intensity drops when the game demands more bite. Supporters can sense it when the tempo slows and the opposition start to grow in confidence, that is where the frustration comes from, because it feels like the solution is not complicated. Someone who can drive forward, press aggressively, and set a standard of urgency could lift those around him. Without that, performances can drift into being neat but harmless. Out wide, the conversation is similar. There have been encouraging flashes, moments of directness and confidence, but consistency remains elusive. One good run of games does not erase the need for reinforcement, particularly when the schedule is relentless. Rotation is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And right now, Celtic do not have enough reliable options to manage that effectively. That puts extra strain on individuals and increases the likelihood of burnout or injury. The striker situation, though, sits above everything else. Goals change matches, they change moods, they change seasons. When you lack certainty up front, every other issue feels magnified. Chances missed become talking points, half chances become sources of anger, and pressure builds quickly. The names being mentioned reflect that search for a solution, but none of them come without risk. Whether it is a young forward still proving himself or someone struggling for form elsewhere, there is no obvious guarantee. What makes it more complicated is the financial reality of the modern market. Fees that once seemed unthinkable for domestic transfers are now standard, and waiting for prices to drop often means missing out altogether. English clubs hover constantly, ready to step in with offers that are hard to match. That leaves Celtic at a crossroads. Either adapt to that reality and act decisively, or accept that targets will slip away and alternatives will have to be found. The sense of firefighting mentioned earlier becomes more apparent with every passing week. Instead of building calmly from a position of strength, the club appear to be patching holes as they appear. That approach can keep things afloat in the short term, but it rarely leads to sustained progress. Supporters can feel that tension, the sense that everything is reactive rather than proactive, and that is what fuels concern. Even the deals that seem close can unravel quickly. Medical issues, confidence doubts, tactical questions, all of it can derail a move before it ever reaches completion. Each setback adds to the perception of a window that is slipping by without delivering what is needed. Time is not infinite, and matches do not pause while negotiations drag on. At the same time, there is an awareness that not every signing needs to be spectacular to make an impact. Sometimes the right player, arriving at the right moment, can steady things and allow others to flourish. The challenge is identifying that profile and backing the judgment with conviction. Hesitation is the enemy in January, especially when the squad is already under strain. Supporters are not necessarily demanding perfection, but they are looking for signs of intent. They want to see that the issues are recognized and addressed with clarity. When communication from the pitch feels muddled and performances swing from encouraging to frustrating, it is natural for anxiety to grow. That anxiety is not rooted in negativity, but in expectation. Celtic are judged by higher standards, and that comes with the territory. As things stand, the window feels delicately poised. A couple of smart additions could shift the mood dramatically, turning concern into cautious optimism. Equally, a lack of movement could leave the squad exposed and the pressure intensifying with every fixture. That balance is what makes this period so tense, because the outcome will shape not just the rest of the season, but the wider perception of direction and ambition. Every rumor, every report, every hint of interest is being analyzed through that lens. Fans are trying to read between the lines, to work out whether there is a clear plan or simply a series of short-term fixes until players actually walk through the door and contribute on the pitch. That uncertainty will remain hanging over the club like a cloud that refuses to lift. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are swirling round Parkhead that Celtic are lining up a mega offer for Akor Adams, with talk in the city suggesting the Hoops are ready to push the boat out in the next transfer window. Nothing is signed, nothing is confirmed, but the noise is getting louder by the hour, and it's the kind of noise that usually means something is brewing behind the scenes. Sources close to the club reckon Celtic's recruitment team have been tracking the powerful forward for some time, impressed by his pace, physical presence, and eye for goal. Adams is seen as the sort of modern striker who can bully defenders yet still stretch the game, a profile that fits neatly with what Celtic like to do when they're on the front foot. There's a belief inside the corridors at Lennoxtown that he could thrive under the lights at Parkhead, feeding off the energy of a demanding support that expects intensity and end product in equal measure. The word doing the rounds is that Celtic are prepared to table a serious bid, one that would test the resolve of Adams' current club and signal intent both at home and beyond. It's being framed as a statement move, a show that the champions are not content to stand still and are willing to invest heavily to stay ahead of the pack. Whether that figure meets the valuation is another matter, but the mere fact it's being discussed has set tongues wagging. For the fans, it's the kind of rumor that sparks excitement and debate in pubs and on buses across Glasgow. Is Adams the missing piece? Is he ready for the pressure? For now, it remains speculation, but in football, speculation often comes before action. Keep an eye on this one, because if Celtic do pull the trigger, it could be one of the biggest talking points of the season. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.